This video is sponsored by Skillshare. Hi, hope you're well. In this one, I'm making a small box or tray, the kind of thing you'd throw your coins, cards and keys into. And I'm making this out of some thin strips of cherry that I've ended up with after stress testing plunge saws. They come off the saw pretty well finished, so I've trimmed one edge straight with the track saw, then run the strip through the table saw to get a finished size of around 43mm, about 1 3/4 inches. And the strips have come off the saw about 9mm thick, 3/8 of an inch or so. I'm going to miter the corners and I wanted the grain to flow, to continue around the box. So I'm cutting one long side, then the shorter end and so on, marking each one as I go. The material dictates the size of the box, and this one ends up at about 250 by 180mm, about 10 inches by 7 or just over. And I've taped the sides together just to check the fit of the miters, and then I can mark for the first vertical divider that's about 4 inches to 100mm or so from one end. With the thickness of the divider marked and the two sides taped together, I've set the table saw to a 3mm through cut and cut the little housings or dados with a stock blade. With the sliding table, this is actually the safest way to make this cut in such a small workpiece. It's possible to do this on a router with a sled, and the quality of the finish would definitely be better, but it would take much longer to set up and make a custom sled for this material thickness. Now, hilariously, not a single camera was running when I fitted the vertical divider, but with it fitted, I can mark for the horizontal divider and follow the same process. Cut the housings, then trim the divider to fit. The base will be 4mm thick, so I've trimmed 4mm off the dividers. Then use the router to cut a 4mm rebate in the sides and ends. That's nice and easy to do when you've got mitered corners. I'll be lining the box with quite a thick leather and I don't want the edges to show, so I'm cutting a 3mm groove about 6mm down from the top of both of the long sides and in both sides of the horizontal divider. And remember, if you're using a table saw to do this, you must use push sticks or blocks with a workpiece this small. I want the ends of the horizontal divider to stay at full thickness within the housing joint, so I chisel an angle in each face of the divider up to the shallow groove where the leather can be fixed in place. This was a lot of work and not at all good for my hand, so I made a jig that clamped onto the sliding table of the table saw to make this shallow angled cut in the longer sides. Yes, that is a lot of exposed blade, and I would only consider making this cut using a sliding table. With all the pieces cut, they get a light sanding, then I can start the Jenga style glue up. Before that happens, let me just tell you about today's video sponsor, that's Skillshare. This time of year with the nights cooling down, getting into the workshop can really take some commitment, but instead of staying on the sofa and watching TV, why not spend that time productively learning new skills or maybe taking a refresher course on something you've been meaning to brush up on. Skillshare's impressive range of online courses covers just about anything and every kind of creative endeavor you can think of: video editing, cooking, graphic design, and yes, my personal favorite, 3D modeling, CAD software. Now, while I have finally settled on Shaper 3D, a CAD package that actually seems to make sense to me, it's been incredibly helpful to be able to take detailed courses. This one is Shaper 3D Create Your First Model by Nicholas Fogg, especially as I know that each course hasn't cost me anything extra, and the Skillshare Learning Paths course playlist, if you like, that have been curated to work together makes finding those courses on related topics even easier. So whether you're a complete beginner like me or someone with more experience just looking for a specific answer, then you'll certainly find something for you on Skillshare. But you don't have to take my word for it. The first 500 people to click on the link in the video description will get a month's free trial on Skillshare to watch whatever you want, take as many courses as you like, attend as many classes as you can fit in to see if it's for you. And if you want to continue after the trial, then there are great value premium subscriptions available too. So whether you're looking to learn more about something you have an interest in already, or if you're looking to learn new skills altogether, Skillshare will have something to help you out. And I'd like to thank Skillshare for helping me out by sponsoring this video. So I've taped all the sides together and added glue to the inside faces of the miters and the housings for the dividers. And then I can start carefully folding all this together, trying to trap the dividers in the right places. I could probably have used a third hand here, or at least two hands that are working. But it all goes together without too many dramas. I could have just left it taped together, I think, but I added clamps and a square just to make sure. While the glue goes off, I can get the base roughly cut to size. I'm using some of the aircraft grade birch ply. It's extravagant, I know, but it's the only thin piece of plywood that I have. And to be honest, it does have a very nice grain to it. With the box out of clamps, I can trim the base to fit. And get it glued in, remembering to scrape off the glue squeeze before applying a bit of pressure with the weight of an old metalworking vise. A little while later and the glue's set enough for me to get everything sanded up nicely, edges, faces and base. And then to apply a finish before I get to fitting the leather liners, because I didn't much fancy trying to keep the leather clear of the carnauba wax that I'm using. This is from Leo at Hand Eye Craft. It gives a lovely finish that doesn't fade, and it brings up the colour of this cherry really nicely. Leather liners next, and I bought this for a project that didn't happen, at least not yet. And I'm carefully cutting a strip to fit into the left-hand side, checking it for fit, and then cutting it to length. I want the leather to curve into the corners to make it easier to pick up the things in the box, so the fit isn't too critical, but I do want it to be snug. And I follow the same process for the right-hand side, using a short length of dowel to keep the leather smooth, taking my time and cutting everything to fit nicely. In fact, it all fits so nicely that I was in two minds as to whether I should stick the leather down at all. But in the end, I decided to take it out and just add a strip of double-sided tape at either end of the leather, just to keep everything secure. those short lengths of dowel coming in handy again to apply a bit of extra pressure on the edges where the tape is. A quick buff over with the soft cloth, and that is pretty much that. Small boxes like this are great practice projects, and the techniques you use, miters for the corners, rebates for the base, housings for the dividers, these are all useful things to learn and good things to practice, whether you're using power tools or hand tools. And with something like this, you end up with a useful item too, and all made from some strips of wood that were just cut to test a saw. This is actually the first small box like this that I've made, at least since I was at school. It is deeply flawed with many, many mistakes, but I had a lot of fun doing it, and I'm very happy with the finished result. This is also my first time using leather for the lining. I'd actually bought the leather to use as an inlay on a bedside table to conceal a phone charger. And if you wanted to, you could incorporate those things into something like this, but I'm actually very happy with it just as a coins, keys and cards dump. So I'll call this one done for this week. Thanks so much for taking a look. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it, and I'll catch you in the next one. All right, take care.